Going. So good morning, everyone. We're getting to the end of the year. So I hope that as we approach the middle of November and recognize that we've got, I think it's 7 weeks today until Christmas, which means it's 8 weeks today until it's January 2019, which is just mad, isn't it? So we're literally around the corner from another year. So I hope we have within us some commitments to finish strong for 2018. It's always good to have a few things extra we can check off on our list of things to have achieved for the year, be it within NECAN or outside of NECAN. We want to feel like we've accomplished something, that we've progressed and moved forward. And so now is the time to be refreshing our memory and looking back and going, what did I commit to do? Where am I at? How am I doing? And make some necessary last-minute adjustments, because we always need those last-minute adjustments, don't we? The winds of life will always blow us in different directions. And so we need to be sure to steer and keep on track. I want to say we had a wonderful, wonderful event in the UK this past weekend. Absolutely thrilled with what we experienced. And I wanted to share a little bit of that experience with you tonight or this morning. We've got a couple of participants from the meeting that were there that are on the call with us. I'd love for them to be able to share their thoughts and insights too. But yeah, so I would love to spend time thanking everyone that by name that made this event so wonderful. But I'm thrilled to say one of the things that stood out to me was the ratio of guests to customers, to consultants. It was, I think, almost 2 to 1. Which is just outstanding. Real strong demonstration of activity and business engagement that created a very, very different energy to the meeting as a consequence of the new faces that were in the room. And I'm thrilled to say I was with Nikki Edgell this morning doing a 3-way, a getting started follow-up from the weekend with a brand new consultant that she signed up today as a result of the meeting, and she's got a follow-up plan with her within the next 24 to 48 hours with her contact list and helping her get started, and she's just running. So what I'd like to do is perhaps, Mike, if you don't mind, just unmuting yourself. I know you've already done your Aligning with Success call last night, and but can you just perhaps share, as someone that came out from Canada and came over all this way to visit us in cold and windy, rainy England, what you made of the event over the weekend, and perhaps some of the highlights that you got from this that would be worthwhile for others to make note of.
Absolutely. Well, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, good.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate the team who put the event together. Just from the moment I walked into the room, it was already evident that there was a lot of work put into it. The displays, the way they were organized. I love the center display for the nutritionals. People had a chance to sample Jade Greenzymes and the chocolate shake throughout the day, and the Siaga. Sorry, that was a phone call coming in on my phone. So that was one of the things that I thought was a highlight. The idea that people can actually sample and taste some of the nutritionals, I think, is really important. Of course, the water station was set up for the water. And then there was product display categorized into the packs throughout the back. And then there was also a display at the front. So there was ample evidence that we had products to offer. And I thought that was really put together nicely. It was just a proper display. It wasn't sloppy. It was very clean and really edified the professionalism of the event and the products that we represent. So just the atmosphere alone was one thing. And I'm very excited, by the way. I have to say, I think all the consultants who were there, who set the tone for that energy, were already very upbeat. And so it's easy to walk into a room not knowing what to expect, not knowing what's going to happen, and pick up on the vibe of the group that's there, who was very excited to host this event and to host us. So I immediately was picked up, if you will. I really felt myself being raised in vibration just through the atmosphere of that. Then when we came to content was brilliant. I really think the team there did a beautiful job of bringing points about the benefits of the products, raising the awareness. First of all, was the first section was the doom and gloom, as they called it, raising awareness of the need, and some really interesting statistics, not generalized, but statistics that were relevant to the country itself. For instance, the economic statistics. In fact, where we were doing the event in Brighton happens to be the poorest economic situation in the country. So an emphasis that they made when they showed us what is the state of the union, if you will, in terms of both health and economics. So I thought that really says something, because it says whatever it is that we're doing is not working. And then we went into the solutions, and I generalized the solutions to open up the concept of the wellness home and what we stand for in terms of the 5 pillars of prevention. Then they went really into some great points about that, about, for instance, water and light and so forth. Just things that are not necessarily known or not common. So I was very impressed with the content. And then, of course, the energy just by having all those guests there, because everybody's on their best behavior when they've got guests, and they want people to hear and feel and experience the best of what we have to offer, and they contributed to that. Also, what was really great was the testimonials they had lined up to share experiences of the products, for instance. So the morning segment was product, and then it transitioned into business before we broke for lunch or a short break. And then we came back and really went into the business. So the whole agenda was really well laid out for a one-day experience. I love the fact that we did a second day, Ben, you and I, along with our friend David, who is a tried and tested and proven network marketer. This is that fellow that you had mentioned to us earlier. It was a pleasure to meet him. Very eloquent gentleman and speaker, and certainly contributed to the content. We had a training that morning, Ben. I don't know if we're able to capture that, or if there was a recording of it or something. It was so different, yet so profound and so imperative, I think. After we broke for lunch afterwards, I just said, I don't think we could possibly add to this. There was nothing more to say. It hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you want to touch on some of those points, but it was huge in terms of what it stood for. And one of the big takeaways for me from that, going into it and having exclaimed this point, which was having made the decision as opposed to having made a decision. And the distinction is enormous when it comes to the consequences. Yeah. So just some highlights for me. As you can tell, and as I mentioned on my call last night, I was very, very pleased with this trip overall. Even in France, they did a bang-up job. It was a great experience for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. And your support of the European market has been so appreciated, and it's had such a positive impact. It's just been, very well received. So really, really appreciate what you've done there. Kathleen, if you want to unmute your line. Kathleen is a wonderful consultant with us from Bristol, which is also in the south of England, but on the other side. Kathleen, do you want to perhaps just share a couple of highlights from what you experienced over the weekend that you feel would be helpful for others?
Yeah, I have a regular conversation every week with Dee and Patricia. Dee's in America and Patricia is in Brussels. And it's just a lovely triangle that we have going. And I was talking to Dee about the highlight, which was the decision.
Yeah.
That brought up an awful lot of emotion for me. I can even feel it now.
Yeah.
And I think I was telling Dee that I'm referring back to other parts in my life where I've made the decision at the time that was necessary, whatever decision that was. And I knew I was going to achieve it. And all, you still get all the negative and all the stuff that comes up around that, making that decision, but it hasn't any track because my attention is on achieving the result. And I acknowledge the fact that I hadn't actually made the decision with Niken. Not really. and it brought up a lot of emotion for me. And I just think it was absolute highlight, and it's going round in my whole consciousness at the moment about the importance of that, because not only do you go through any barrier that you need to go through because you've made the decision, but also you're attracting, like Mike was talking about, all the positive and the magic that comes your way when you do that. And it's almost like not worth doing unless you've made the decision. I don't know if that's making sense to people, but because otherwise the negatives become negative in your life, and you accumulate all this stuff unnecessarily. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's useful. And it was a magnificent weekend, and I really appreciate Mike coming and contributing, and it was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And you're right, it's interesting, the consequence of making a decision versus the decision in regards to what happens when you make a decision. You're kind of you're pushing up the hill, but you never quite reach the summit. Yeah, and as a result, you get the knockbacks that pull you down, and then you keep on going back up. But when you make that decision, you do manage to get through that to the other side and enjoy a different experience as a consequence. You push through those barriers and get to the summit, which you can't do if you haven't made a complete committed decision. So what I'd like to do is kind of break the remainder of the call into two parts. The first part is just touching upon some of the things that we did to prepare for the event, which you may want to take note of to see if, as you look towards the next events that you've got lined up yourselves, or the ones that you want to prepare for in 2019, some things that you can do to maybe apply that will help you have this type of experience. Because, like I said, what I'm thrilled about is the near, and I think it's maybe slightly more than 2-to-1 ratio of guests to consultants, which is just wonderful. But also, what came from that is new customers placing orders, new consultants joining in. So it wasn't just that we had guests that went away and did nothing. We are seeing the fruit of that already with immediately, it's Tuesday now, we're already having getting started calls with people launching their businesses and so on coming out of this meeting. So if you're wanting to get some of that result into your business, here are some things that we did that I think have proved to be important for us in having this event become a success. The first thing that we did was we needed to identify what is the objective of the meeting. Who is the target audience? It's very important that we don't hold a meeting for meeting's sake, because we know in this business we're supposed to have them. We need to understand the audience, the purpose, and what we want them to achieve. When we do that, we craft the message according to the needs of the audience. And that's why what Mike referred to is, that's why we got such a strong content-driven plan, was because we knew our focus needed to be on attracting as many guests as possible. But we also knew that we had consultants there that needed to be trained and motivated and inspired as well. So we needed to get a balance between the two. So the morning was heavily focused on introducing the products and the content around that, the product philosophy, the Niken philosophy, and then finishing with a brief introduction to the business, so that should the guests want to stay in the afternoon, they had a motivation reason to do that, because they could see the opportunity was going to be shared in more detail after lunch. So we gave a nice little segue from the end of the product session for customers into the business opportunity for the afternoon session after the break. What we also did, a couple of extra things which I thought were particularly helpful, is we had a conference call with attendees prior to the event and did a little bit of training with them. We did that, the meeting began on Sunday. We had on the Saturday, we had a call with all attendees, hopefully all, if not most, on the Thursday prior to the event. And the purpose of that was to address a couple of critical issues. One is event etiquette. What is our responsibility as distributors at an event? Yes, we're bringing guests, so we want to look after them, but we also want to feel a sense of responsibility for the success of the event as a whole. So we helped to everyone to feel a sense of involvement and engagement outside of the assigned tasks of, I might be sitting at the door doing the registration, or I might be setting up the product display or what have you, so that if I saw a new face in the room, I could feel empowered to go up if they're standing by themselves, to shake their hand, welcome them, say hello, give them a friendly Nikken experience, to help them feel like this is a friendly, loving, positive group of people that they're associating with. It's important that that happens, because you can have great content at the front of the room, but if in the breaks, if in the mixing and mingling, they feel a cold shoulder or a cold breeze, or if they hear negativity in the conversation amongst distributors chatting, then that proves to kick people out versus bring them in. So what we said was, we gave them that guideline of responsible distributor etiquette for how to participate and engage and elevate the atmosphere. And we also encouraged them in that process to leave the baggage at the door. If you've got any agenda of your own, leave it behind. The purpose in coming to this meeting is to come with your own mind and heart open, to receive a maximum amount of energy, positivity, and content that you can. And if you've got any concerns about any aspect of the business, we can deal with that one-on-one separately in appropriate places and times. But in the meeting is not the place. And we felt that that was important to emphasize too. Because sometimes that happens, doesn't it? You can have someone come along and maybe they've just had a little disgruntled moment that they want to moan about whilst they've got their upline or their sponsor with them. But if someone's overhearing that and they're a guest, that's the last thing you want to have happen. Yeah, we wanted to maximize all of the conversation to be as positive as possible. The other thing that we stressed, and again, this proved to be really helpful, because I know Nikki did a great job of this particularly, I know this because she references to me, was the fortune is in the follow-up. There's a lot of people that have been invited, a lot of people that have said yes, they'll come, doesn't necessarily mean they're coming. So we encouraged and invited everyone to make use of the time between that call and the event to follow up with all of the people that have said yes, to confirm the commitments, and all of the people that they are yet to invite to extend those final invitations before the meeting starts. And that proved to be very, very worthwhile. I know Nikki had, I think, 13 guests on the day, which was just fantastic. But also she confirmed that some of them came as a result of those final follow-up phone calls that took place in the final day or two prior to the meeting itself. And some people had said they were sitting on the fence wondering whether or not to come, and then decided to come as a result of that phone call. I would always emphasize that phone calls are one of the strongest ways to confirm the commitment that we have available. Yes, we want to send a text. Yes, we want to send an email or do a Facebook reminder. All of those things come into the process, but the phone call is the strongest. And often we'll find the method that scares us the most is probably going to be the one that's the most effective. Yeah. So I know for me, picking up the phone might be the scariest one to do. It's easier to send a text or an email blast or something, but do the one that scares you and do it first. Get it out the way, get it done. Another thing we did, and I got this from Gary Lindner actually, because I phoned Gary after they had that wonderful event in San Francisco not that long ago, where they had 100 people in the room and 50 of them were guests or thereabouts. And I asked, what they did to bring the numbers into the room, and we kind of duplicated that. And that's what that was. They got a database of all the distributors in that area and they phoned them. Now I got a list drawn up. I didn't get through all of them. I did also enlist the help of one of my sons. I wrote a script up for him so that he could follow the script. I gave him all the information, did a little bit of training with him. And he and I reached out and phoned. I think we got through about half the list. The list was over 300 people, so it was a decent sized list. But we phoned them personally to invite them to the meeting. And we had some wonderful experiences. Not everyone said yes. That's going to be part of the course, yeah. But we also had someone say, "Thank you so much for the invite. We can't make it, but this is the first time that I've been phoned personally and invited to a meeting." Now, they were thrilled that they got the personal invitation. And I was thrilled to get the positive feedback, but it was also a bit of a slap on the wrist, wasn't it? Because that shouldn't be the first time that someone gets a personal invite to a meeting. So as we're looking at moving forward in our businesses, and what I also would highlight is when I was organizing this event with Louise and Nikki and John, we talked about dividing up this big lengthy list of hundreds across the group. Maybe we could share the load there. And then we decided upon discussion that the best thing that they could do would be to phone their prospects. So rather than share it out amongst the team, I took the responsibility myself. Like I said, I shared it with my son so I could delegate a little bit to get the other things done. So we did the call outs to the group, and the downline reached out and invested their time on phoning prospects. And the fact that I took that responsibility, I think also helped them to take that responsibility too, of this is my time to phone out my contact list, reach out to my guests, and invite. And there was a lot of emphasis placed leading up to the meeting on bring your guests, this meeting is for them. So we had a flyer that was designed for guests. It was again targeted to them, so that the marketing materials were designed for that audience, along with the content, along with the messages, along with the phone calls, and so on. So there was a lot of time spent in extending invitations, a lot of time spent training the team leading up to it, a lot of planning beforehand, and then a great experience on the day. Now, Kathleen touched on something that was a highlight for her, which I want to touch on, which kind of became a highlight for me. What did we call the event? I'm going to pull up the flyer here and maybe just share with you the Facebook event. Sorry, 1 second. One second. It was simply called, I'll do a quick screen share here so you can see. This was the Facebook group. So we had a Facebook group, a Facebook page event that we hosted, and it was called A Better Way, Combining Wellness with Entrepreneurship. And so you can see in the name, well-being, designed for customers, entrepreneurship for business builders. You can see how we're incorporating both there into the message. And so again, build people, fulfill purpose, create profit. And I'm pleased to say we had much more than 15 that went and 19 that were interested, which was great. So that was really, really worthwhile, that event. And you could book the tickets right there on Facebook with the links that we put in. So we made it nice and easy to access the content, to book your place, and what have you. Now, Kathleen mentioned something that I want to just finish on. But one of the points that we made was making a decision versus making the decision. Now, I did a call yesterday with Dave Johnson on this subject. He recorded it. He's posted it to my Facebook page. So rather than reiterate that, say it again, what I would encourage you to do is to jump on there, have a listen, because I did go into that a little bit in a little bit more detail about what the difference is and how it impacts your business. This importance of making the decision versus a decision. But what I want to get to is this, because Kathleen highlighted a critical point. She said, I feel like I haven't made the decision yet. And we talk about why. Why haven't we? What holds us back from making the decision? One of the biggest obstacles is fear. Now, the question is, what is it that I fear? the challenge that we face in many instances in creating a mindset that will make the decision are the negative beliefs that we entertain, often that we aren't aware of. I'm going to give you some examples of negative thinking patterns or beliefs that compromise our ability to make a decision, and that compromise our ability to keep a commitment or to take action and to move forward. Here are some thoughts that can compromise us. All or nothing thinking. I have to be perfect in order for this to work. And if it's not going to be perfect, then there's no point in starting. Yeah. Let me give you a simple example of perfectionism that is not good. We often think of perfectionism as good. That's the best standard. Well, not if 99% is considered a failure. Yeah. If someone has a perfectionist mentality, what that means is, let's say I'm going to start exercising and I want to get fit. I want to set some healthy lifestyle goals, but I know that I need to go to the gym at least 3 times a week. I need to change my diet. I need to start walking instead of catching the train, all these different things. And I start to map that out and I go, oh, I really don't see myself doing all of that right now. So I won't start. And immediately I'm stopped. I don't even begin because perfectionism prevents me from even starting. Versus saying, I'm going to start with this and I'm going to progress. Someone once challenged me because I'm a perfectionist, right? This is something I struggle with. Someone challenged me once to identify a goal and set the task of doing most of it, not all of it, right? It's like, that feels very, very uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, but you're not actually doing all of it now in the first place. So at least start and then make progress and recognize that you can improve. And what we want to do is measure progress versus perfection. Another thing that can hold us back, catastrophizing. If anything is going to go wrong, it will go really wrong. If I invite people to come to the meeting, it's not just that they'll say no, everyone will say no. Yeah, and so as a result of that, again, I don't want to start. Or if I do this presentation, what if, while they're there, rather than fumbling over my words or just stumbling a little bit, it all just blows up in my face, right? If we catastrophize, that can also compromise us. If then scenarios, if I do this, then they will do that. If this happens, then that will happen. And we're making assumptions. If we start to make assumptions on other people's behavior, that can also prevent us from making strong commitments, making the decision. That can hold us back as well. Negative self-labeling is another thinking pattern or belief that can hold us back. I would love to do X, Y, and Z. I would love to invite all these people, but who am I to really achieve great things in the first place? Yeah. If I look back over the past, maybe I realize that I'm not worth it. I'm no good. And the negative label that we put on ourselves prevents us from achieving better things. Yet in reality, if we could reverse that and see ourselves, I remember someone saying to me once when I was younger, he said, if I could just part that veil and show you who you really are, he said, you would rise up and never be the same again. If we could see who we really are versus who we think we are, we would rise up and never be the same again. Our negative self-image prevents us from making the decision. And one of the reasons behind that as well is because we look back at the past and see all the times that maybe we have made and broken little commitments. And as a result of that, we don't trust ourselves, and so we don't make a commitment again. What we need to do is be able to draw a line in the sand and say, that was yesterday, and I don't need to be held ransom to the past. Because the reality is, results take time to measure. And in our journey of becoming, in this journey of humans being more, this journey of becoming means the law of the harvest needs to be applied. And we don't know when the harvest season of reaping is going to be in our lives. Many of us might want it to have been yesterday, or 5 years ago. And we don't always expect that it might be tomorrow or some point in the future. We need to build with faith now and have patience with the process. And that process often involves patience with us. I love that saying, in patience possess ye your souls. Yeah, we lose our souls, we lose our business, we lose so much of our future and our ambition when we don't have patience with the process or with us. So we want to get that balance right. So the time has come. I want to keep going on this because this subject is so important. But I hope we've covered enough today of some of the things that were helpful for us in creating a positive experience for that event that took place over the weekend, in seeing guests come, in seeing distributors play their part well, and seeing people get motivated, and seeing results come in as a consequence. And also, hopefully, the barrier that stops us from making the decision. Hopefully, we've been able to identify some of those negative beliefs that we perhaps have inwardly that we don't always realize because they're subconscious, they're nonverbal. But we do need to take that moment to reflect, to analyze, and to evaluate so that we can discover what negative beliefs we might have so that we can replace them with healthy alternatives. And as we do that, then we start to be empowered in making the decision and see it stick. So I hope this has been good, and I look forward to being with each of you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.